Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to become a member of the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification or join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Arwin, Flatzoid, Ranty Flat Earth, Righteous Force, and Sleeping Warrior, together with 10th Man in G+, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. A big shout out to Paige, who's our latest member as a unicorn. Welcome one and all to Flat Earth Debate.
Good afternoon.
Ooh. Hello, hello. Hi, guys.
Good morning.
Hello, hello. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Not from Solana Beach.
What's that?
Just some looming here and there, but
You validated that,
actually
Arwin?
curvature.
You've validated its looming?
Well, it seems to be miraging effects in some way, at least.
Seems to be. Seems to be.
Yeah.
Have you validated
indeed.
that?
Indeed.
You validating that, or are you just basing it on an assumption of a spherical Earth that's got something we should see with our eyes but not see based on a model's suggestion of what we should see, and then bending that light around that presupposed model that says we shouldn't see something, even though we see it with our eyeballs, and then claiming that what we see is actually a mirage? Beyond that fundamentalist religious assertion, have you validated any of these claimed to be mirages or looming effects, or are we just assuming it based on a model?
Okay. No.
Fair enough.
But yeah, they can definitely think of it as curvature.
What you can assume,
They really want to.
you can assume something that you see and is there and obvious isn't really there because a model says it isn't there or shouldn't be there, and then say because it is there, it's actually looming. It's a mirage. Well, there's no necessity to say that other than you've got a fundamentalist belief that it shouldn't be there when you can see it. So, these assumptions of looming are just ridiculous based on an R value. Any evidence of the R value necessitating these things we see to become mirages? R, Earth radius, anybody? Hey, Brian.
Yep. The great search for R.
Hey Nathan, hey everybody.
No R.
About self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. Any evidence of that?
Nope. No evidence.
Feel free to join in on Discord. Hey, Bad Christian, we actually showed your photograph. We'll get to it after the housekeeping.
Yeah, thanks. That's the only reason I'm here.
Perfect. We'll get to it sharpish. Any evidence of axial rotation?
Not of the Earth-based variety.
No.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No evidence.
See how
Well, like we always say, we have to know what it is first.
Right on. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Well, since the side that claims they can't provide any, I would say no.
That would be a definite no.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Sent that message to Dr. Becky last night, and I'm still waiting.
I love that that's a housekeeping question. It's amazing.
Well, we started off this merry go-round of debating this subject with the assertion that the whole body of science proves we're on a globe. It's still asserted by people with far more subscribers than I that assert total pseudoscience doublespeak nonsense, as though it proves their religious belief. Nevertheless, that's the prevailing Western world religion. Heliocentricity remains. But they don't have any science. They never will. They can't even formulate a viable hypothesis. Nevertheless, without any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container.
Nope. No way. Not in the
No,
physical
not at all.
world. Not in models, really. Not really. Not in math. Nope.
Really, not really.
Well, they can think of it as being possible, but then they're not really thinking about it. They're just having preliminary plans and not actually working them out. So they can keep on fantasizing that it is some way possible. When you put all the physics together from any presuppositional angle, pretty much, it just doesn't work.
When
It's
they figure,
baffling how badly it doesn't work.
when they figure this one out, then there won't be any need for scuba tanks.
Scuba tanks. Okay, right, we'll get to
Yeah.
that shortly, if you don't mind, 10th man. So, Paulie, you're still with us?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to bring up your picture. So
Yep.
I've just framed it all nicely, so let's see if I can do that now. Right, I've got your picture up on screen. So we had a series of these, and obviously you added to yours. This was taken on the 11th of December. So do you want to tell us, first and foremost, what is this picture?
It's the moon. Obvious chemtrails, even with the moon's bright enough to make shadows, and nice big ring around it. It was fairly cold, as I recall. So I think that has as much to do with it as anything as the temperature. But obviously pretty hazy out that night.
I tried to
That's
describe...
about all I can tell you.
Well, I tried to describe the scale. I've seen this myself. I've never photographed it, but I saw it once. I think I tried to get a photo with my phone and it failed miserably. But yeah, it's big, right? Very, very big.
Yeah, huge.
Very,
I could
very
barely get
big.
it in. Yeah. That's the P900 shot.
Okay, so you've got it nicely framed. But yeah, I said it took up an eighth of my sky. That was the closest that I could quantify it, which isn't very accurate.
Right, yeah. I never stopped to think of whether when you see a halo, whether it's always the same size or not, depending on, where the moon is in the sky. It was obviously pretty high up there for winter, which, I think it's closer in the north in the winter. So higher than it would be in the summer, but I'm going to say maybe about 50 degrees or so, or 50 or 60 degrees up. Would be just a really bad guess, but yeah, it was taking up a large part of the sky.
Yeah, that sounds about the same as exactly I experienced, pretty much exactly the same. So it was pretty high in the sky, pretty cold, and there was, for me, it wasn't chemtrails, it was fog. It was a foggy night, I remember it quite distinctly. But the effect is obviously the same.
Yeah, it was actually nice to get some chemtrails in there because you can see they do this 24/7, and this is, the moon puts out so much light that it makes shadows on them. So, but yeah, there were obviously high clouds too. It was, obviously not cloudy enough at the surface to block the moon completely, but yeah, if you've seen halos on the sun, obviously it's clear when the sun has a halo, and usually I'm going to say pretty hot. So it seems like opposites, where it has to be really cold to see the ring if it's the moon, but really hot if it's the sun. But I'm not sure. That's just a guess right now.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing that. We discussed it
You're
in the
welcome.
pre-show, so you might not get any other comments. We might have already exhausted it, but thank you for joining.
No problem.
I can't remember who it was that wanted to go that I cut off for Paula. I think it might have been Anthony.
No, it was me.
Oh, sorry, 10th man. Go ahead.
No, you said you had music in the background. Who's playing the music?
It'll be Anthony's game. You pop yourself on mute in the Hangout, Anthony.
I feel like you're putting me to sleep here. It's dark. Yeah, there's the gas pressure question. And I said, well, when they figure that one out, they won't need scuba tanks. What I meant by that is, at least for now, the only way to have gas pressure is with containers.
Oh, I see. It wasn't a reference to the underwater testing facility where the astronauts train.
Well, even then, they have containers to train underwater. So in a sense, I guess that carries over. So you got to have gas pressure in a container to survive underwater. You got to have gas pressure in the so-called ISS to survive wherever they say it is. You got to have gas pressure in everything except the very place we live that has gas pressure doesn't have a container according to them. But everything else has to have a container to have the same gas pressure.
Hey, Babs.
And as lovely as yesterday's show was, as it ended, Blind Sniper agreed that the gas would equalize if it was next to a vacuum, as you recall. Remember that?
Right.
That was a nice concession from him.
Well, concession followed by declaration of his fundamentalist religious belief. I don't agree that the gas would equalise, even though he conceded that's what you're describing. Anyway.
It didn't last long, but it was a concession for that nanosecond.
Yeah, then cognitive dissonance immediately kicked in. I've got you presented, Ranty, if you wanted to.
Oh, right, excellent. Yeah, I've got a couple of things to talk about today. Obviously, this is a new channel called Sky Free. 179 subscribers right now. Have a look around, see if you can find this video. It's called RC Boat and Flashlight Vanish Below the Horizon. I want to show you this because this is going to show you how the optical effects can hide things over a very short distance and over, inside this inferior mirage. So firstly, I'm going to go to the place where these observations are taking place. And it's across this pond here. And the length of the pond is about 615 feet. Let me put the properties in that and show you the measurements. So we've got 615 feet from one side to the other. And what this new channel is doing, it's a couple, I believe, husband and wife, and they've got this little boat and they've put a sail on top of it, and they do a bunch of other stuff too. And they're filming this boat go across this lake, and to the top of the boat is 9.5 inches. So from the bottom of the boat to the top of the sail is 9.5 inches. And as you can see, the boat's in focus. It's quite near to the camera. But as we play the video a little bit, and it just disappears, what we're going to see now is we're just going to see the sail. So the boat's at the other side of the lake, right? It's at the other side of the lake. You can see the sail at the top, but you can't see the boat. Now, this is a big problem for the Globers because there should be no Earth curve over that distance with the camera height, with the height of the actual, with the distance, which is just 615 feet. There should be no Earth curve. It's a very flat surface to do this observation on, but this is showing you the effect that this inferior mirage has of being able to block things out. And this is done on the small scale. It can also be, scaled up. So you can scale this up as going into a big boat over long distances. Now, I've filmed this effect several times. I know that the Plain Truth has too. And what's happening now is they're bringing the boat back towards the actual camera. And as they do that, you can start to see the boat becoming into focus. You actually start to see the boat appearing, and you can see it coming out of this inferior mirage, this blockage, this atmospheric blockage, not Earth curve, which has actually caused the boat to disappear. Very good stuff. Excellent channel, showing it on the micro scale, but also showing how this can be done on the big scale too, how things can disappear from the bottom up. I just thought it was a very excellent demonstration of this. What do you think, Nath?
Yeah, spot on. Excellent.
It is. So the name of the channel is called Sky Free. They've got some fantastic observations with this little boat going over this pond. Different weather conditions, different days. You see different kinds of effects, and it mimics reality on the oceans very well. You see all kinds of different phenomena that we've observed on the big scale, but they're able to recreate this on the small scale, where there should be absolutely no Earth curve. I can just go over here and show you this. Distance in miles 0.12, because that's the length of the pond. Viewer height in feet, just half a foot above the water. There is no hidden. The horizon is beyond the target distance on all of these. So all these optical effects that you're going to see on these different videos that they've put out is performed across a flat surface. And we're getting these effects of things disappearing from the bottom up, things disappearing into the inferior mirages. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, just for clarity though, when you say a flat surface, it's flat even by the standards of assuming R. It's pre-horizon. This isn't accounting for physical horizons assumed to be obstructions of Earth curve edges getting in the way and causing this very effect. The very effect we see at distances that they do assert this effect is caused by Earth curve obstruction. So no, even if you pan out the maths for this very short range obstruction of Earth curve, no, well it's not. Blatantly, this proves it. And what you're going to say, oh no, it's the obstruction of the waves. What? But it isn't when it's at a greater distance. Suddenly it's Earth curve. Suddenly it's back into all of our actual demonstrations of it not being Earth curve, and then a plausible explanation being given. That's described as an excuse to simply deny Earth curve. The only explanation they ever have for this exact effect that we see all the time at much greater distances. Oh well, it's Earth curve. Well, no, this isn't Earth curve. And there's no way you could ever claim it was.
Yeah, it's just not there. You just can't see it. It's behind this atmospheric wall of what we would call the inferior mirage. So it's just hidden behind it. So it just perfectly demonstrates that there should be no hump between this. There should be no edge for it to be loomed up upon or hidden behind. It's simply just not visible. You can't see it.
Bronte, would you present that part where the guy is crouched down and the boat is like...
Is that on this video?
I think it's on the other one. The other video that we were talking about last night.
I'm just trying to see if... Because I know that...
Because what I want, whilst Bronte's looking for that, I want you to remember the Rumpus's claim that you can go to the beach with a theodolite and you can accurately calculate the radius of Earth by simply measuring the dip from the horizon. Now, if you bear that in mind, then it means applying his logic that when you go to a pond and you measure the dip in the horizon, you can calculate the radius of the Earth. You had it then, Ranty. It was in that timeline there.
Do you want it back here with this boat, you mean?
Yeah, where the boat disappears into the background and the blokes knelt down.
Well, no, you don't need that one. This one is absolutely fantastic. What we're seeing here
this is the one. This is the one. So look at what. Just rewind it a little bit and show the boat moving so that people can see where the boat is.
There's the boat.
Now look at where the boat's physically sat. We know the boats don't float on the air. We know the boats are sat in water. Pardon?
You were just echoing there, Tony. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. We know that boats don't float in air. We know that that boat is sat on the water. Now, if we remember Rumpus's claim, if you go to the beach, let's just say this is at the beach because we are at water's edge, and we look at the horizon and we measure the horizon, we can see that the boat's underwater, but it's not being shown on the water, is it? Now, they tell us that that's towering, and because it's being miraged above it, or whatever explanation they come up with. But Rumpus would point his theodolite at the hard horizon below it, and that's not where the horizon actually is it? Because the boat's on top of it. So just remember Rumpus's claim whilst you're looking at this video of the boat now, because if you did use a theodolite, you would believe that the Earth has got curve to it because it's below the horizon line or level over about, 30 meters or whatever, however far away it is. So just remember that the theodolite claim is nonsense because the horizon is a perception. It's not actual, it's a perception. And the reality is that boat is not floating. So whatever the horizon is, it's a bit of a mess.
And what's good about these guys is that obviously they've only just started doing this kind of stuff, but they have all the equipment they need. And that boat is now not there. It's now disappeared behind that horizon.
Any chance you can click on their share button on this video and then go to Master B and drop it in, and I'll put it in for the live chat so they can go and subscribe if they choose to, if they want to.
Can I ask a question about that boat?
You can, go ahead.
Yeah, how much of the boat would you expect to see, given the globe calculator, the curve calculator?
Why would we want to use a globe calculator and assume Earth is a globe when looking at a boat? Why would we want to do that?
That would be a prediction. Because that's a prediction of the theory. That's how you test theories.
No, it isn't. That's incorrect.
So how much of the boat?
Sorry, you've just said that's a prediction of the theory. You're wrong. Will I get an opportunity to explain why you're wrong, or will you immediately interrupt me? It's a question to you, Brenda. Can I explain why that's not a prediction based on a theory? So a theory would be the outcome of scientific method-based experimentation. That's how you produce a theory. A prediction would be a hypothesis. Now, in order to have a theory, you'd have multiple validated hypotheses to form a theory. What this is a presupposition of a model based on an R value that you're comparing to reality. And in that model, it has a physical edge. A physical edge to the sphere. That isn't what the horizon is, however. So we would need to reify a not actual location, the horizon, into the edge of a ball, when that's not what the horizon actually is. It would also require us to use this mathematics you're asking us to use and justify the outcome, that we assume automatically that the outcome is a sphere outcome. So we're automatically into begging the question, which is to assume that we're automatically on a sphere when we're studying the effects of a boat disappearing at distances that aren't in any way related to your reification of a sphere Earth. Okay, Brenda?
How do you know that it isn't predicted by the globe Earth model?
Sorry, I just explained.
How much?
Sorry, did you not listen to a word I said? Who cares what your reification of the horizon into the edge of a sphere based on an R value does? Who cares? It's meaningless. It doesn't prove anything. It's not a scientific prediction. That would be a hypothesis. It's definitely not a theory. That would be multiple validated hypotheses forming a theory. This isn't that either. I've just explained it. So I've explained why who cares, and now you're asking me who cares again. I've just explained why it's irrelevant, and you've completely ignored it, Brenda. So I'm not going to tolerate this for much longer. It would be nice to hear an acknowledgement of the who gives a shit it's not a theory, as you've declared incorrectly. Who cares it's not making a scientific prediction? It's a Mystic Meg prediction based on reifying the horizon into a physical edge. Maybe acknowledge some of the words I've said, rather than challenging me to justify for the third time why this means nothing and is unimportant, because you're simply reifying your religious model. Okay?
And I can sort of beg the question with you there, Brenda, and just say that horizon, there would be no horizon over that distance. No horizon over that distance, Brenda.
Ranty, I'd like to ask you, how high was the observer? How tall is the boat? And how far away?
615 feet, half a foot, no horizon.
Ranty, just do what Miles the Liar Davis does and just say, you don't need to know that information.
Right. Yeah, well, I'm just saying that there's no horizon.
Well, then I can dismiss it. I can dismiss it.
Sorry.
0.1 of a mile.
No, hold on, everyone, hold on. Anthony said, basically, I'll rephrase what he's asking. Why do you want the information, Brenda? What's it useful for? Is it for running through this calculator I've just pointed out is useless, assumes R, and reifies the edge of the horizon into a physical edge? Why would you want these numbers exactly? Is it to put them through the calculator that you've ignored my debunking of and are moving on to someone else? Is that why you want the numbers?
Yeah, you're incapable of debunking much of anything.
Yo, shit, head.
Why
do you want the numbers? Don't ad hom me about what I'm incapable of doing. I'm asking you a direct question. So far, we've been very civil here. I'm asking you why you want the numbers and qualifying that by saying, do you want them to put them through a begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking curve calculator, which reifies the horizon, and not actual location, into the edge of your ball reification. Is that why you want the numbers? Yes or no? Not attack me with ad homs, please.
To check it against the curve calculator.
So even though I've 3 times pointed out why that's totally irrelevant to beg the question and reify an edge that we don't have, you're still going to ask for the numbers to put it through something I've just debunked. Essentially, sidestepping every single word I've said.
Yeah,
How
your stupidity
disrespectful
doesn't
are
matter.
you? That's very rude. You're essentially ignoring me.
I don't care.
So we've had a conversation, and you're just essentially going to ignore what I've said.
Your stupidity and your inability to understand
Hey, you're ad
things
homing me
is
again, so you can fuck off. Bye-bye. I just said once. I don't want an ad hom. The answer to my question was yes. I want to run through the calculator you've just debunked. Peppered with you haven't debunked anything. No, you didn't acknowledge a word I said. I pointed out why the begging the question. That's assuming your outcome. The very thing you're trying to prove is assumed in this calculator. The world's already a sphere in these maths. So that's why it's called begging the question. Proof of nothing. Because it proves nothing. It's not going to prove your point because you've assumed it in the maths. Begging the question. Proof of nothing. Perspective hijacking, because the mathematics takes place in an orthographic representation that doesn't account for the fact that you have a horizontal view, an axis left or right. It gives you a single slice and an unrealistic representation with you, the observer, in the actual picture. So that's the maths you'll be using. I'm debunking them. You're ignoring me, love. Don't claim victim or claim I haven't debunked anything and then ask someone else on the panel for the maths to run through this shit calculator that proves nothing and excludes perspective when assuming its outcome. For the love of fuck! You just want to ignore me because you're rude. That's your only problem, Brenda. Rudeness.
I had something else to present as well, if it's you've got a moment.
Ranty, what was the height again of that? What was the height of that picture that Brenda was asking? She kept interrupting. I can't hear you.
It was high enough that there would be no horizon even on her model.
Give him a number, just so the audience doesn't moan.
No, I know. Just give me that number, please.
Half of a foot, 6 inches.
Okay, so 6 inches, and the boat did what it did in the picture, right?
Yeah, 0.12 miles away.
Yeah, 600 what? 15 feet?
Yeah, 615 feet.
Okay, well, hey, everyone, here's a teaser. Be here on Ballbusters on Saturday for the complete demolition of this point.
I've got to do a proper plug now. Okay, be here or be sphere on the Quantum Eraser YouTube channel, 7 p.m. UK time, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. So that's Quantum Eraser channel, Saturday, that's this week, 4 days from now. Quantum Eraser channel, 7 p.m. UK. Be here or be sphere. Ballbusters live. There you go. On you go, Auntie.
So yesterday we were talking about this side-on view about looking at the idea of things being loomed up, and we were also talking about things like this image. Now let me bring this image up. So this was a composite that we did, and we talked about this quite a lot on this debate for maybe 100 shows or so. This Isle of Man imagery. Now this matches up absolutely perfect to the globe, and well, not the globe, but I mean the Google Earth images from this particular location. So there's nothing loomed out of proportion. Everything is perfectly in its place where it should be, even though it's a composite. There's nothing. This hill isn't in the wrong place. This hill isn't higher than this hill, etc., etc. And this is just a snapshot of the entirety of the Isle of Man. The problem is, and this is a problem, is that when you're actually measuring these distances, let's put this in miles. So we saw as far as around about Douglas, and we're looking as far away right over to this side here. So it's essentially about 20 miles or thereabouts. So across this span, let me just save that there. We've got all these different snapshots of things like this. So we've got all these different lines of sight all the way through, from Douglas to Baldrine, etc., etc., all the way across different slices. And let's have a look at the weather conditions that are out and about right now. So I typed in the temperature for the Douglas and the Isle of Man, and it says it's 11 degrees with 77% precipitation, humidity is 93%, and the wind is 36 miles an hour. Let's go over to Laxley. Well, Laxley, it's at 12 degrees, so it's a degree higher there. It's not raining as much, has less wind, humidity isn't quite as high as well. And we can do this across all of these here. Let's go over to Glen Shuren. precipitation 34%, humidity is only 91%. Okay, so across all these little slices, here, we have different gradients. We have 12 degrees, we have 11 degrees, we have different humidity. It's raining here, it's not raining there. You know, we have all these effects going on that should alter the path of the light as it goes across these gradients. The ocean tends to be the same temperature, but the temperature above the ocean is always different in different locations. So what we're getting here is we're getting an idea that when we see an image like this, this one here, and we just see all of the Isle of Man in proportion, you then realize that actually you're looking at little slices across 30 miles.
Can
You're
you
looking at slices.
Hold it there, Ranty. Sorry, Ranty, I've just brought up the image to do this at this point, so keep that image there. So earlier on yesterday's show, we were talking about this, so I've now put up the wireframe, and it's a slightly different view to the overhead one we had up yesterday. But what Ranty's just shown is this section here that's arcing around the top. And what we're detailing in terms of, or what Ranty's very well adequately doing a job of detailing, is this one line that I'm now moving my mouse along would be the single slice that they'd apply 7/6R to bend it around this whole length of the island back to your eye, with you in the picture on the left and the target on the right in the mathematics. Well, in reality, you've got this whole arc, and what Ranty's saying is over here, you could have a weather front coming in, a real bad storm, while these people on the other side of the island are still in nice sunshine. And that would affect the rate that they claim by presupposition that the light is bending at 7/6R around the Earth to bring it back in complete conformity to be a perfectly proportioned mirage. It's preposterous. But the image you're presented with is a horizontal one. So you've got this expanse, and what they present you when they put it in Muppet vision, otherwise known as orthographic view, is this one line. So you're looking at this line. In other words, you're looking that way, side on to a horizontal 90-degree representation of the actual picture. So in this, you've got the observer at the bottom, and the actual picture that's going to be presented by Ranty when I flick over to his screen. This is the actual composite image of the Isle of Man. But what we actually get in Muppet vision is just this one line presented flipped 90 degrees. So you've got your target on the left and your observer on the right, or the other way around, sorry, target on the right and observer on the left. And that ignores the fact that, like Ranty says, there's going to be all sorts of differing conditions over here on the island, over here on the water, towards the north end of the Isle of Man. You know, it's going to be vastly different. Not to mention the fact that you're looking down the island and this whole thing is further and further around a presupposed curve. Well, it's not, but that's just what they say. And it's being loomed back up to represent itself in perfect scale. Because it's a nice clear day. Of course we've got holograms. Whoever's making that noise in Discord, can you please put your mic on mute? Anyway, sorry, yes. Ranty, carry on. My bad.
No, that's fine. It's like from the right-hand side here, you have probably different weather conditions to the temperatures down here, which are 20 miles away. And this is also a further 15 miles away from the observer. This is nearer by 15 miles. This is like 30 miles away. This is like 40, 42, 43 miles away. You know, you're looking across this angle. So obviously, from your point of view, we're looking from here to there on the right-hand side. And by the time we get to the left-hand side, we're looking all the way down here, 40 miles away, as opposed to 30 miles away. So we've got these greater distances that we're looking across, plus different temperature gradients. So how, if we've got 7/6R working great here, but we've got 8/6R working different here, because obviously it's a different temperature, so we're going to have different gradients. How are we seeing this image in perfect symmetry? How are we seeing that? How come this hill isn't higher than this hill?
I'll tell you.
Because
I'll tell you. Because the Earth's obviously and observably flat, and it was a nice clear day.
And the idea that ambient light can be loomed up and bent around an arc of a sphere, right, is preposterous. And this proves that, because we've never seen images that are out of proportion, whether you're looking at Ben Nevis, whether you're looking at any of these big mountains, Mount Everest even, you never see anything out of proportion. And you're looking across a huge expanse across Mount Everest, but it's always in proportion. But if you believe in the globe mathematics, you should have temperature gradients all over the place that should just jumble and move these mountain ranges and hills around so that it doesn't look like Mount Everest anymore. You have to actually put it back to how it should be, because you'd have to take into account all these temperature gradients that are changing things. But it's not. It's always uniform. And I think that disproves the idea that you've got this idea that things are being refracted around a globe.
Hey, Ranty, while you got that map up, can you bring that map up again on Google?
Google Earth?
Yeah,
Well,
the one you had.
I've got
the arrows going.
Got the
Yep.
LiDAR version up if you want to use that. Either one.
No, that's fine. What's the width of that island?
Well, the width that you would see is you've got about a 20-mile expanse across that entire image that we've just done. That's about what we see.
Yeah, so your actual photograph is resembling where you just drew the line.
Yes, across this yellow part here.
And then how far are you from the island? Signified by that red line that you have going?
So from the right-hand side, it's 30 miles. And from this point here, it's 40 miles. So 30 miles to there, 40 miles to there. And we're looking across an expanse of 20 mile. We've got a 20-mile image captured here that is actually in perfect symmetry across the whole way. But as demonstrated by just checking the weather reports for today, it just shows that in different locations over here, it's 12 degrees. Here it's 11 degrees. Here we've got some rain. Here all this other stuff. And they should be affecting the light as it travels to your camera. It should be affecting it. It should be jumbling it up.
No. Not should be. Let's get this shit. Let's stamp this out.
Okay.
Not should be.
In their model, it should be.
No.
They need it.
They need to assume that it is based on their reification of their model. Not should be. We just saw the island. The fact that they need to assert that it's doing all this nonsense to conform with their model isn't what it should be doing. I just want to get that in there. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah, but look.
Well, my point is,
Looking through
Ranty,
rain-
is go back to the Ranty, go back to your photograph now.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm looking at this photograph, and now I'm taking what Ranty said. So to the far left, it's 40 miles, and to the far right is 30 miles, correct? From where the shoreline was.
No, well, not to be exact. It's no. The furthest seen on that day was 47 miles, and it's actually one of the mountains that's poking up. But there's one that's at 48 that you can't see. So the highest visibility level on that day was 47 miles.
47 miles, okay. Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's such a good picture and such a clear day. You could, if that island was further out away from you, you still would have had a nice shot.
Yeah, but my point here is that this mountain here, let's say, is the exact proportional height above sea level as this mountain here, and they all appear in symmetry, but they shouldn't do if light is bending like they say it is. So over here, if it was 7/6, and over here it was 8/6, you would have a different relative height in positions than what's actually presented on screen right now.
But
point to where it's 47 miles. Point to
get
where
around,
the mountain is at 4.
I just want to get around this. What they do is, so I'm just going to put a line on Snaefell, if you can do the same for me, Ranty. So
yeah, Snaefell's up here.
Right, so you've got Snaefell. What they do is they take one line and they draw a line between you and this observation. So you've got one line from this point only to the to Anthony at St. Bees. They then flip that on its side 90 degrees. Then you've only got one slice to bend light at an equal rate. So this came up on Ranty's show with Ruhif, and when challenged about it, he said, "Oh, it doesn't make any difference." Well, it doesn't need to make any difference because it's only accounting for one slice in their orthographic representation. So they just bend light equally, uniformly, around this one singular sliver of the actual observation. You can't pan left or right in this orthographic representation they do the maths with. You don't have a left or right. You've got one slice turned 90 degrees. That's it. So they don't need to. The maths excludes it completely.
I'm glad you got that point yesterday, Nath, when I brought it to you, because we talked about. Well, I talked about this about a year ago, and like you say, it kind of just disappeared, and nobody really followed it through. But I think it is a very worthwhile thing for people to take into consideration, especially when you're looking at skylines and things like that. Because if you're looking across, let's say, the Toronto skyline, you should see different variations of the height of the different buildings and stuff. If we're getting any of these different conditions.
No, if it's claimed to be a mirage, and you've got all these different conditions
as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're just saying we just see it. There it is. It's a clear day.
Hey, Ranty.
Yes.
Do you have a set height? Do you have a set height above water that you have the most success at?
No.
Hello.
No, it's all it's all weather dependent. I think a lot of it's probably down to the humidity and how much water evaporation we've got across the water.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes, Rambus, we can hear you. We're in the middle of talking.
Oh, sorry.
So, real quick here, Ranty. When it talks about how far you can see, or your on your weather report.
Yep.
It's telling me it's telling me the visibility is like 8 to 9 miles.
Yep.
Do you get a distance report on your weather reports, or do you get a percentage report?
Yeah, sometimes we get distance reports. BBC Weather doesn't give it, but you have to go to a different site to get that.
Okay, so if you're getting distance reports, you're obviously shooting further than that, right?
Sometimes. I wouldn't say it's always the case. Quite often this past year has been terrible for observations. Quite often I've never been able to even see the mountains just behind Barrow and Furness. Never. Been an awful year for observations.
Okay. I got my P1000, and I was going to go for my birthday to go do an observation across like 10 miles or so, 2-foot level. I got sick. I wasn't able to do it. Excuse me. So, yeah, just looking for some tips, for some more tips. Working on my Zoom and just trying to see if there's a sweet spot. I'm looking for kill shots. I'm not trying to waste time, go back and forth with heights observations and different sides and all that nonsense. I just want the kill shot.
Yeah, like I say, just I think round the time that you've got a full moon, you tend to see a little bit clearer as well. The clarity of the air seems to be a bit better for some reason. And as for visibility and stuff, I think you've just got to go down and just keep checking it every day, because sometimes I've gone along and not expected to see anything and have seen it. But more often than not, this past year, I would say out of 365 days, if you said 350 of them had very poor visibility. It was terrible.
If you check on your visibility, get your local weather guide for the place that you want to go to, a lot of them have visibility percentages, and they'll tell you roughly how good the visibility is. Go on a day when the visibility is good. That's when you're going to get to see most of whatever it is that you're looking at.
Yeah, thank you. And like
visibility
I said,
is good, and the humidity being low if you can. Like normally that's in the evening or in the morning, because the humidity is vapor, water vapor, and it's less dense than the air that you're looking through. That's why it rises. So you get that miragey stuff. And the light rays tend to bend up when it goes through that, according to Fermat's principle on trajectory of light. So the best thing you're better off doing is just go when the humidity is low and the visibility is good, and then you're going to see a lot.
You've no understanding of Fermat's principle.
You think light curves, mate? So don't
Nathan and Ranty have absolutely no idea about the 76R. All that was
Fermat's principle states that light travels in straight lines, but deviates from straight at all points along the path.
Sorry,
taking the least amount of time.
Say that again, Anthony.
Fermat's principle states that light travels in straight lines, but deviates from straight at all points along the path, taking the least amount of time. So it doesn't travel in straight lines. Yeah, that's what Fermat says. Straight lines, not curves. It does,
and then you just said it doesn't. Are you saying light travels in straight lines or not?
Yes, light travels in straight lines and deviates from straight at all points along the path. That's what Fermat says.
So it doesn't travel in straight lines then, does it?
Deviates from straight at all points along the path, Rumpus. Not curves.
So it doesn't. So it's not straight.
Yeah, it's not curving. It's deviating from straight at all points along the path.
So it's not curving.
Straight. Not curving, Rumpus.
It is curving.
That's the point.
It's not
curving.
It's not straight.
We just ask Anthony a quick question. In terms of its deviation, does it just deviate in one direction, down, or can it deviate?
As I've said about 6 times, it deviates from straight in all directions on the path of least time.
Yeah, and
Just
that's
look it up.
dependent on
Just
the
type in
density of the
Fermat's
refractive
principle and the
index.
trajectory of light. That's what
And
light
so it will
does.
bend in different directions depending on the density of the air that it's going through. Normally, when the air
Yeah,
that's
but
close to the
your
surface
model
of the
only
Slit,
ever accounts for it curving down, and that's not what it does in real world.
Sorry, you're saying Fermat principle only accounts for it curving down?
No, we're talking
No.
about. There's two different conversations going on.
Can you say that again,
One
Anthony? I can't hear you very well.
Hold on, Rumpus. One conversation seems to be about this terrestrial refraction, which would be 7/6 of a presupposed radius value, bent at 7/6 of that radius value, and the other is Fermat's trajectory of light assertions. Now, those are two different things.
So Fermat's principle gives you that.
Sorry, those are two different things. One is called terrestrial
No, they're not.
refraction.
They're identical.
No, one is called terrestrial refraction, and the other one is called Fermat's principle. They're different things.
Fermat's principle causes terrestrial refraction.
Sorry, no, it doesn't. A causal
Yes, it
relationship
does.
would be something validated by a scientific experiment. In this
Which it
instance,
has
would it
been.
sorry, I hadn't finished my statement. You're asserting a cause. So I assume you have some scientific empiricism to this claim.
Yes.
What's your scientific empiricism
Basic optics.
Sorry.
Everybody knows this.
If
You're
it's
talking about
empirically
principle of
valid,
refraction.
Rumpus, this isn't going to work if you keep talking through me. If you have some empiricism based on science, then I'd like to know the experiment that was done, the independent variable, the dependent variable. Let's hear the full shebango. If you claim that, let's just get your claim straight. Fermat's principle causes terrestrial refraction. That was your statement.
Correct.
So what's the empiricism?
Well, okay. Fermat's principle is the result of.
Yo! I didn't ask for first principles. I asked for the experiment, the independent variable, and the dependent variable. Please.
Okay. Well, just if you want to go look at, you can go and see it yourself. YouTube, for instance, video.
Yo, fuckwit. This is your claim. I'm not going to prove your stupid shithead assertion, you stupid dick. Don't reverse the burden of proof. That's a logical fallacy, you moron. No, this is your claim.
Nathan, you're being
your
rude.
Claim.
You're being rude.
I'm going to kick you out. I'll give you one chance. This is your claim. I'm not going to back your claim for you. That's a fallacy. It's called the burden of proof reversal fallacy. This is your claim for you to back. I'm asking for an independent variable, dependent variable, and you're talking through me. So that's the end of your time here. If you can't listen to what I'm requesting while you give me first principles, having been asked for independent and dependent variable, I have to shut you up. So I'll ask one last time for an independent variable, dependent variable, and the experiment that was performed. Please.
Right, Snell's law. Go and do it. Or don't. Okay, you don't have to.
Sorry, Snell's law is not an independent variable, a dependent variable, or the name of the experiment performed. You're answering a question I haven't asked. Are you incapable of comprehension?
Yes, I'm very capable. You're incapable of understanding.
I'll try again then. This will be the last time, and then if I don't get an independent variable or dependent variable or the name of an experiment performed, I will kick you out because you're just continually talking through me now.
Well, let me answer. Right. Any observation of Snell's law is a...
That's not an independent variable, a dependent variable, or an experiment. Snell's law is not an experiment, you complete moron. So now your time is over. Now anybody who wants to cry foul, pay attention to the 3 separate occasions I asked him very specifically to back his claim of empiricism by science with the independent variable, dependent variable, and experiment that he said he had. He then said, look at Snell's law. That's none of the 3 things. So bye-bye. You were given your chance. Cry foul in the comments, morons who worship at the altar of globe.
Snell's law doesn't even apply because it requires a medium change, and there is no medium change. He's still in the same medium.
Yeah, simply mixing up his fundy assertion of 7/6R with actual refractive effects and saying they are the same. In fact, one causes the other. No, Rumpus, no, you moron. No, one's your fundy presupposition involving an R value. The other is somebody who's actually studied the effects of light. It deviates from its straight path. Not curving at 7/6R. One's not the cause of the other. You don't have any experimental validity to this assertion. You're a buffoon. If you had any, you'd have given it. Again, cry foul in the comments for those who think 3 chances to back his claim of scientific empiricism was unreasonable when not given. Yeah, it wasn't. He's a dick. Let's be honest.
I earlier got a pilot to admit that airplanes and pilots flying them do not account for drop. Now he added in the gravity and curved atmosphere bit afterwards, and I'm waiting for him to come back with some proof of that. I have it that he admitted that pilots do not account for drop, because he has a video I posted in Master B. It's called "Is the Earth Actually Flat?" And it's a follow up to some other video he did previous to this, and it's a really arrogant kind of video. I only watched part of it myself, but he answered some person asked him, how come planes don't fly with their noses below level? This is what the person asked him, if they're flying around a curved surface. And he said, oh, we don't fly with respect to the earth, we fly with respect to the air pressure. And he just left it at that, and I pulled him on it. And there was a to and fro in the comments, and he eventually admitted they don't account for drop. But then he's at the throwing gravity and curved atmosphere into the equation. But I put his video in the Master B, and you can look at it if you want.
Did we get that videographer from earlier? Because Ranty spent quite a long time on that. Oh, yes, we did.
Snell's law is derived from Fermat's principle, Nathan.
Sorry, a moment ago, it was the cause of 7/6R. Fermat's principle.
There's a lot of layers to this, Nathan.
A lot of layers? You fucking bullshitting little twat. A lot of layers. A minute ago, it's the cause. With no scientific validity given, 3 opportunities. I'm going to have to put you back on mute if you're just going to stay on the same shitty assertion. I've given you 3 chances. So it's back to me asking for a 4th time for the experiment, the independent variable and dependent variable, without you giving it and just talking through me the entire time. No, you don't get 4 opportunities. No, sod off. Who do you think you are? Now you're just talking through me constantly, so piss off, dick. I brought you back into the conversation because I thought you might address what Brian said. No, he wanted a 4th opportunity to not give any actual experimental validity to his claim of science. Yeah, the whole body of science, until asked for. Right, Rumpus? Dick. No challenge to what you said clearly, Brian. Just another asking for a 4th opportunity to claim that there's some sort of empiricism when it comes to Fermat's principle, Snell's law, and the begging the question R value applied through 7/6R of the begging the question R value. So yeah, that's not going to wash. Saying it's the cause, saying it's very many layers of the onion. Who are you, Shrek? Bloody moron.
Flat is curved, Nate.
Yeah, you handed
I've
Rumpus's
got many
ass.
laughs over you grilling Rumpus.
Yeah, it was hysterical. Flat's curved, curved's flat, 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 curved, curved, curved. It's flat, Ranty, it's flat. That's what you had him doing. Dancing in his own little shadow.
I listened to Rumpus about 2 months ago there on Jose's, when I was listening to Jose's, and he was talking about this presentation he's been putting together. It's like 800 or 900 pages or something like that. And he said that it will always look flat, but that's because it's curved. Now, may not be exactly verbatim, but that was the basis of it. He said it is curved, but it always looks flat. That's what he said. He said because of light. That's what he said.
Yeah, both sides accept that it's obviously and observably flat. It looks flat. It's obviously and observably flat. Even the fundies will accept that.
It's flattening now, Nathan, according to Ruhif. It's flattening.
Can you close your mic? Rumpus, typing's coming through your mic. Again, total ineptitude when it comes to using equipment.
I didn't realise you'd unmuted me, Nathan. I didn't think you were going to unmute me.
What are you being talked about? Not that unreasonable.
I muted him for you.
Thanks. No, but seriously,
Sorry, was I being
he's
called?
being talked about. I don't want him muted.
Was I being cold?
Right, yeah.
Is that being cold?
Was I being cold?
Right,
Was
so
I being
Snell's
spoken?
law. So Snell's law, an example of Snell's law, just bend some light through 2 mediums and you can see Fermat's principle in action. And that's what Brian just said.
You need a medium change, Rumpus.
Yeah, that's not terrestrial refraction, though, is it? But that's not. There's no 7/6 R in either of those, though, is there?
If you apply the...
He's not going to answer me. He's going to ignore me. If I apply something, is there 7/6R in either of those two principles, or are you just going to ignore this question as well?
Yes, you derive the 7/6R.
So it's not in there.
Principle.
So you're going to derive it. I thought it was the cause a minute ago. Now it's a derivation, not the cause. Man, it is like a very complicated onion with bullshit skin.
Of course. Yeah, it's in the situation of being in the atmosphere, you get 7/6R.
Sorry, there's no 7/6R in either of these two principles. Now you're saying it's derived. Earlier it was the cause. So you're just a double-speaking fundy moron. These two principles in no way include 7/6R. It's something else. As I said at the beginning of your bullshit non-stop interruption, they're different things.
Fermat's principle gives you the 7/6R if you apply it to the atmosphere and the Earth.
It doesn't. That's wrong.
He's just going to bullshit and fundy his way around it. They're different things. One is 7/6R, your fundy presupposition of an R value. The other are principles derived from actual atmospheric effects, and they don't include 7/6R.
If you apply Fermat's principle to the atmosphere, you get 7/6R.
Show me in Fermat's principle where 7/6R is.
Right, you apply Fermat's principle to the conditions in the atmosphere and you end up with 7/6R.
Okay, let me ask a quick question. Are those conditions presumed to be wrapped around a sphere?
They're known to be wrapped around a sphere.
So we are assuming our fucking outcome then. So it applies when you assume that the atmosphere's wrapped around a sphere, you begging the question muppet. Yeah, doesn't take long for us to absolutely roast you, you fundamentalist religious zealot moron. That didn't take long, did it? We know! You think that little shitty aside's going to get around the fact that you're absolutely presupposing your outcome, you bloody fundy question beggar?
We know that the Earth...
We know! He's going to go into parrot mode, stuck record time. We know! Yeah, you're just a fundy. You're going to assume that outcome because you say you know, you fundy zealot.
You can go and find it out, Nathan, yourself.
You can go and do it too. You can be a believer like Rumpus. You must look for my religion. Then you too can know, like Rumpus knows, when he begs the bloody question. That's all he can do, is basically assume his outcome and nothing else.
Nathan, put me on screen if you would, please. And mute
Certainly,
Rumpus
Anthony. You go ahead.
Just mute Rumpus whilst you do so that no one, so he doesn't interrupt. He said that the 7/6R is based on Fermat's principle,
and you end up with 7/6R. It's very simple.
You've said that. You're just parroting. You're stuck record. I've got to stick him on mute. He won't let Anthony make a presentation. He's just going to parrot the same shite 5 more times.
He claims that 7/6R is based on Fermat's principle, but when we go to his favourite calculator, we can see that the 7/6R, it claims, standard refraction is an approximation of the refraction expected under average or standard atmospheric conditions. It doesn't say anything about Fermat's principle, but when we click into these standard atmospheric conditions, it gives us the variables that influence the perception, the outcome. And in this document, it doesn't mention Fermat's principle once. But what it does talk about are these values here. The vertical pressure gradient.
It's not shown on screen, Anthony.
Pardon?
It's not showing up. It's not showing up on the screen.
It is, Brian. Carry on, Anthony.
Just bear with me, Brian. The vertical pressure gradient resulting from the hydrostatic balance relating to the rate of change of pressure with geopotential altitude. And then it gives you the ideal gas law in molar form, which relates pressure, density, and temperature. But nowhere in this document, if I just do a control search, Fermat doesn't appear in here, and this is what the 7/6R concept is based on, according to Rumpus. He says it's Fermat, but when we look into it, it actually isn't Fermat. It's based on what he claims is the international standard atmosphere. So Rumpus is incorrect. The 7/6R is not based on Fermat at all. It's based on the international standard atmosphere, which has got the variables, which are density, pressure, temperature, and a few other bits and pieces in there. So Rumpus, can we have a concession that 7/6R is not based on Fermat, please?
I'm serving me. Hold on. I'll get it in there.
And not only is it not based
shut
on...
up, Anthony. Hold on.
It is totally based on Fermat's principle. That document you're looking at there is describing the conditions in the atmosphere. You then use the conditions in the atmosphere, particularly about density, then you add in Fermat's principle, and then you get 7/6R. It's very
Are
simple.
those conditions... Hold on, Anthony, I'll just ask him again. And those conditions, they're presupposed to be wrapped around a sphere in the first instance, though, aren't they?
Indeed.
Right, so you're begging the question then. And with that, I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who tuned in live on the Nathan Oakley programming stream. I think we actually had a new member. Shout out to Rob L for joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member. Much appreciation. Also to Paige, who joined as a unicorn. So thank you very much to both of you. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. And again, a massive thank you to all of today's Discord and G+ panels for making this live show possible. Stay tuned if you are watching on Nathan Oakley premiering stream, as there will be an after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!